Welcome to a special edition of This Works For Us podcast, where we have the lovely Jacques and Aisha Georges. Yeah, I see. I was going to put them in there. I was going to put it in there. Yeah. So glad to have you guys on. Where I know we've been, at least, from our other podcasts that we've talked on and stuff, I've been talking about, hey man, we're gonna bring the show back. We're gonna bring it back. And it was, for the most part, had been all lip service for the most part, with some, I would say, some truthness behind it, but you won't bring it back until you actually do it. And here we are. So thank you guys for being our lovely guest on here. You guys have been married for 4.5 years. You got 4 kids. You almost got a starting basketball team there. 3 of y'all, I guess, go ahead and finish that thing out and get you a starting 5.
I think right now this works for us.
Yes.
I see what you did, brother. That's like some generational wisdom right there. You know what I'm saying? Because we're gonna punt it up around here. Yeah, this is, you guys are our second year. Second. Well, technically third. Technically third. So when we had our first, run, we had a good friend of mine. We did down back in my hometown in Georgia and stuff. So that was a good experience. But at least this time we want to take the opportunity to get more couples on, because for the most part, people have heard how this works for us. We want to know what works for you. So one of the, I guess, you know what? You got an icebreaker? You don't have an icebreaker? Stand by. We had this one joke, not joke, but one question that we're gonna ask here before we get into everything else. So here's the question. Would you rather have the ability to travel back in time and witness any historical event, or travel forward in time and see your own future, but you can't change anything?
So I would rather travel back in time to see the past, because I feel that we learn from the past, and the way we trust God, there's no reason for me to know my future, because He's going to show me things that need to happen, and we're going to walk that out. So I'd rather see back in the past and see a historical event.
Okay. Jacques, what about you?
Yeah, so I have to agree as well. I would rather want to see the past and kind of experience, go through the historical experiences, so that we know not to repeat what's going on in society today, and so on and so forth. So as far as the future, it's best to be unknown. Best to kind of in the work, and eventually everything will work itself out. So it's best to be unknown. I love to visit the past for sure. Not my past, but this past history.
Right. I think that's important too, man, because if Joseph would have saw what was his path before him being pretty much second in command next to Pharaoh, I don't think he would have went through that at all. He's like, I gotta go to jail. I gotta get sold into slavery. I gotta go to jail, and then I get no.
I don't think any of us would.
Nobody would.
We'd be doing everything in our power to try to change it, so that we don't have to go through whatever we have to go through. Yeah.
Praying that cup past.
If y'all see in your future and see 10 kids, you would be like, what?
I'm gonna be like, what happened? Well, I know what happened.
I'm just gonna be like,
Party
that's what God wanted. Here we are.
I tell you, y'all already got a head start on us by right. 2, so y'all might reach 10 before we do.
You know.
Never know. I guess we gotta get a bigger RV now since that's one of our plans.
Oh, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. The plan of this RV. What's that? What's going on with that?
So I think I asked him a couple months back. I was like, I literally just turned to him and had this like, I'm like, babe, what if we either sell this house or we rent this house and we build a tiny home somewhere? And now more recently, because that's more of like just getting rid of stuff and like, I feel like we as human race, Americans, we have too much stuff and we think that like we're tied to our stuff and everything that we're going through now, like it's like, okay, stuff really doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, as long as we have each other, we have our family, we have our health, like that's all that matters. And so more recently it's been some RV thinking of like we want to have land, we would love to get an RV, we plan to homeschool. So having our kids and we can travel, we can pick up and come visit Joel, we can stay for a week or a month because we can park that RV and live in the RV. Like, you just picking up and going and being able to show our kids what life is about, like meeting and seeing family and friends, but also enjoying the outdoors and really being in the space that we're supposed to be in. That's more so like our process, really.
Well, that's pretty
cool. Sure. See what happens. We're gonna live the nomad life for a minute.
One of those, I feel like it's one of those like, when you think back and people are like, oh, do it in your 20s, do it like you just like pick up and like go overseas and live for, I don't know, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, like do certain things in those seasons. I feel like for me right now, like I keep saying it to him and like we keep sending each other like these RV videos. I'm like, yo, this one's dope. Oh man, this one's dope. And I'm like, I really truly feel like this is that season. Like it's either now or it's not gonna happen, right? Like as the kids get older, then it's gonna be like, okay, we want to be planted and we want, you know what I mean? Like they're into sports and they have this and they have that versus right now, like they're young. So we can go and do and
So our kids think RVs are cool anyways. We rented one for our birthday last year and we went on a camping trip and just like we're like, you know what, we could easily do this. This is living right here. So we enjoyed it. And our kids, like every time they see an RV on the road, they're like, RV, daddy, RV. I'm like, okay, let's go. 3 and 2, and they already know what it is.
That's awesome. I do think sometimes we, like you said, here in America, we do sometimes get attached to a lot of things. So doing that, because we watch a lot of HGTV and we see people doing that all the time.
We watch
yes, we.
I watch HGTV and he every once in a blue.
Yes, so from past shows or something, if y'all know my MO with something, I hop in, I hop out. I hop in, hop out. That's what I do. It'll be on in there and I'm watching somewhere. Yes, you watch it most of the time. We got it out of the way. You good now?
Yes.
No, okay.
I'm just making sure we tell the people the truth.
They know the truth. We ain't gotta go. Man. But anyway, so I do think it's interesting that people do that and have a ball doing that. I think there's I guess a freeing type feeling in that. You're not pretty much bound to anything, to have that freedom to move and go as much as you want. And I think the the opportunity is there for you guys to do that, on many occasions from our side, I won't say side, but the other show that we've been on, you guys have gone into gardening a lot. So care to explain how that process has been going on for you guys?
Very good segment. My wife would be one to tell you she doesn't have a green thumb, which for me, I'm like, everybody has a green thumb, no matter who you are, no matter what you do. Simply because if you have a body,
see that face?
Oh, I'm about to go into it. If you have a body, you know how to take care of your own body. You do a very good job of that. to be able to take care of a plant just fine, because it's the same mentality essentially, right? Because the plant required just as much attention as you give to yourself, as you give to a child, to a baby, right? And so sometimes it's going to be trial and error. You just do it until you get it right. You get it right, you become the expert. You get it wrong, now you got to seek the expert help to be able to get it and make it happen. But for the most part, yeah, even for Aisha, when she get out there, because the last time she was like, I want to get out there and help you plant like some of the winter crop. I'm like, oh boy. And and I was like, you know what? I want her to get more out there, because when we do get more land, I want her to not be afraid of taking care of the plants and be growing stuff. So she got out there and help us like do some sweet potatoes, brown potatoes, and cabbages, all types of plants, right? And so beautifully. And she went out, she looked out back. Normally she don't pay attention to the yard like that. I mean, she just like, okay, I heard you planting such and such, that's good. I'm glad it's going well. And now the first thing she did, she actually started looking at them before I did, and was like, hey, backyard is looking real good. You should see the plants that we planted. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's new.
We planted.
Right? You know, so now she's more into it, and really goes and check. Even though we are away from our house now, when she goes back to the house, she goes in the backyard and actually check and actually water them. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Progress.
Yes, major progress. And we loving the fact that she's not afraid. She's learning. Even with we have chickens in our backyard, and most people are like, I'm afraid of chicken, but I'm not afraid of eating them. Okay, well, that's whatever. But they don't do anything to you. You know, as long as you take care of them, you feed them. They're the most gentle thing there is. But for the most part, you know, it's going well. We're turning this into a business as well. With we're putting together a children's book to help kids understand the difference between nature and really us as a human being, learn to respect one another no matter what. And putting together a gardening curriculum for children to be able to you know, go through the school process and learn how to grow their own food, sustainability process. So we're making some progress in that, because that should be done by the end of the year as well when it comes to the children's book and the gardening curriculum.
It's another reason why we could take this show on the road.
Yeah.
Literally plant in different
Get
cities.
ready for your book tour.
Yes.
There's other book tours that's happening too. I won't get into that, you know what I'm saying?
Well, before we glaze over, how did you get into gardening?
Yeah, good question. So for me, it's been a thing for since I was a kid. Like my grandmother used to be the one she had, I would say probably well over 20, 30 acres, where she grew tobacco, she grew, sweet potatoes. Like every season there was something different being placed in the ground. And so like, I didn't really realize that was going to be a thing for me. I was probably like 2, 3, 4, 5 years old at the time. And then as I gotten older, I realized that everything that I gravitate towards were basically things that my grandmother was doing, but she never really set me down and said, here's what you're going to do. She just did it seamlessly. And then now I realized, like, wow, grandma was on point. She knew what she was doing. And so this became a passion for me, because I do this seamlessly. I don't have to like really think to put a seed in the ground and watch it grow and really take care of it. So because it's just like knowing, I know this stuff like the back of my hand. So I started learning a little bit more about composting, soil, and different things, which is very, very eye-opening for me now. And so I get to teach the kids, and then seeing the kids being able to see a seed, anything that they get to open and they see a seed, they're like, Daddy, we need to save this seed. That tells me like, yo, we're going in the right direction. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was actually back in Haiti. So y'all kind of know his story, but
I was gonna ask where. Yeah.
Yeah, it was back in Haiti.
If y'all doing tobacco at the house, man, ain't no judgment over here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Should have put that out there, right? You know, like, hey, we're going to well, you know, if we were in North Carolina, we'll probably grow some tobacco out there. We were in North Carolina recently, and we were like, oh, the possibilities are real. We're not gonna grow it for ourselves, but I see these people seem to love this stuff. Real business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was back in Haiti, where my grandmother had every farm animal you can think of. We had so much fun. I had so much fun because I'm the second oldest grandkid out of like probably it seems like maybe close to 100 of us.
What?
And yeah, it seems like it anyways. And we were just my grandfather had 20 kids, so they're all over the place. And there's family members that my wife hasn't even met. But that's another story for another day there. But yeah, good question.
A lot of people to meet. I mean, it's gonna take some time.
Lord.
Sidebar real quick too, because it's just one of those things that like as a married couple we never talked about like, oh, do you like gardening? Do you want to have a farm? Like we didn't talk about any of that stuff. But what we realized, so I realized like must have been like maybe 2 years in, we were talking about like, future and wanting to have land and a farm and all this. And I like literally the Holy Spirit just like dropped and reminded me that I had this like a vision of like owning a farm, living on a farm, having a farm, like all this stuff. And like we never talked about that. It wasn't something we discussed prior to getting married. It wasn't like he was like, oh, you have to be into farming and gardening. Like none of that. Like we did not talk about it at all. And it was just like crazy to me that like the Holy Spirit reminded me like you had this vision and like you wanted to do this and all. I'm like, that's crazy. And I like woke up and I was like, babe, guess what? Like I know we didn't talk about it, but like it's insane how God will put you together and then like bring things to remembrance and you just continue walking forward and moving forward.
I want to say that, just a precursor to this, I've known Aisha since early 2011, somewhere around there. Yeah. And, far as, conversations, I want to say that you mentioned something about that before, about, having a farm and all that. I think I recall some of that from our earlier conversations and stuff like that. So to see it now, coming into fruition, that lets you know that, like you said, Holy Spirit brought that back to your remembrance. Hey, you said this, I have this for you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put the right man in your life for that. Like how you brought that thing together there.
How did y'all meet?
Yeah, very good question. We were supposed to have met a year before, or maybe 2 years. Yeah, it could have been 2 years. 2 years before we actually met. So a friend of hers, a college roommate, actually a friend of hers from school, work together. Worked together at Citibank, and she was the manager. I was the manager there, and we were on the same team. Not necessarily, we were managing separate team, but just under the same type of operations manager. And so we went to it was like a employee event that kind of got us to get out of the environment to really get to know each other. Team builder event per se. And we went to this restaurant and we sitting down and we're all eating and she just happened to be sitting like right across from me and we get to talking about life. She said, you know what, it's really crazy because every time you say something about like, future plans or whatever you want to do, like this person keep coming up in mind. Right. And so, and I'm like, well, I don't think I'm ready for that right now, but that would be great, later on or whichever. But and I mean, at least like introduce you guys just to kind of say hello, whichever like that. So the time that she said it, I'm sure she probably had already texted her and told her like, hey, here's this guy, here's his name, whatever. I'm sure she Facebook stalked me for a while. I was like, trying to see what I'm doing, I'm sure. And it just so happened that, what's crazy is this is plain as you and I, all of us are talking right now. We got together and like when she came, I used to volunteer a lot with my daughter. So we did a lot of volunteering events all throughout the city, and we've actually gotten a presidential award for the number of hours that we dedicated in our community. which we were extremely proud of because my daughter got to share in that with me. So one of the events we were doing, my daughter, sometimes she'll help out with she's a little girl. She's like 5.5, maybe 4.5, 5 years old. And she's trying to help out with that. And she'll his attention span. Oh, there's a bouncy house. Let me go ahead. Okay, go ahead and go. And so, and Ashley, her friend Ashley told me, hey, my friend is actually coming here today. The lady I was telling you that, you get to meet and all this. And I was like, okay, all right. I never met her, never seen her, never tried to Facebook stalk her. I didn't even know her name until she walked in, and I'm like, okay, I know everybody else in here because we've been here all morning and know who's who if somebody new walk in here. So she walked in and I seen her go straight to Ashley and they were talking. I'm like, oh, put two and two together. That's her. Okay, all right. They talked for a while. They sat over there, and I'm sure they're probably like, hey, that's the guy right there. He's over there, right? And I'm trying to pay attention to my daughter, make sure she's good, because I'm the only one there with her. And so she's eventually we crossed paths, and I was like, hey, I think I asked you if you wanted water or something. I was going out and get water or whichever, and we just started talking. We talked for like, it was bacon. I didn't ask you for no water. No.
Like, I'm not sure you're telling the story. Not how it translates.
Okay, all right. Well, so I didn't see you walking across the grass, and I didn't see you, with your African outfit on, and none of that. That was just so then she come over, and she like, hey, how you doing? Drop. I don't even know if
no, I actually walking you over. No, you and her were talking. You and Ashley were talking. My version, Ashley and I walked away. We were like it was like a barbecue tasting event. She and I walked away. When we're walking back over, she told me, hey, that guy I told you about way back when is here. Literally, it was like 2 years prior, 1.5 years. She's like, that guy I told you about is here. And I was like, okay, don't act crazy. Don't say anything crazy. Don't embarrass me. I literally saw that. So we walk back over, we sit down, we're relaxing. And then eventually she got up and went and started talking to him. So they were talking. And then I was kind of like, okay, this is who she's talking about. And mind you, I don't know anybody because that's their work environment, their people. So I don't know who anyone is. So she got up and talking to him, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm watching from a distance how he interacts with his daughter, kind of just seeing the lay of the land. And then I went over and she introduced us. And then she'll tell you, after a couple of minutes, it was like she wasn't even there anymore. We were deep in conversation, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna walk over. And she came over and offered us water because we were standing there for so long, and it was easily 80 degrees.
I thought I went over and got the water for her. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. The way God, orchestrates, couples and stuff. When you truly know that he's in the midst of it, you can see the greatness of who he is and who his children are with that, and for that to just work so effortless, in that sense. So that's what I find
interesting is the conversation happened 2 years prior, right? So obviously he worked on the two of you separately in order to bring you together at the right time. So I find that that's pretty cool.
You're spot on with that. I mean, you were spot on because individually we needed to work on ourselves prior to making that decision to say, okay, we want to come together. And as you heard, me having my daughter, from previous relationship, it was extremely important for me to make sure that was in the right framework before I can say, okay, I'm going to move forward with anything in the aspect of relationship. So he had to really work on us individually. And I remember several different times just praying that, hey, I'm tired of the fluff. I'm tired of all these different things. I need something real. And whatever that looks like, I'm willing to change whatever it is I'm doing get that, right? And not knowing exactly what I was praying for, and yet again, as this works for us now, well, there's certain things that we still had to work on in order to get this to work for us, right? Because if we didn't really at least do that, there's no way we'll be talking about this is working for us, right? So that's key.
So how long did y'all date before you asked her to marry? I'm assuming you asked her to. She didn't ask you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was no.
Good question. I mean, you are asking some amazing questions. I'll let you answer.
Was it 2 days after that conversation? I think I recall we had conversations like, bro, I think I found my husband. I think I found my husband. I knew he.
Hey, listen. That can happen.
What I would have said.
It can happen.
So
right?
Okay, that conversation when we first met happened on April 14th, 2019. No, 2018. 2018.
There you go.
And funny enough, Tia, yes. Right before, so I went to Africa in March, and in months before that, though, God was working on me and being content in my singleness, and I finally got to that point of being content, and then we met on the 14th, and literally 2 days later, 2 days later we went on a date, and 3 days later I'm bawling in my bathtub, Lord, why now? Getting full confirmation for me, knowing that yes, this was the man that I am supposed to marry and that I'm supposed to be with. But we dated for a year. We dated for a year, but he asked me to marry him December of 2018, and we got married. Oh no, not a year. Sorry, 6 months, and then we got married April 14th of 2019. So a year to the day that we met was when we got married.
I'll wait. Then a year later,
Totally.
Months later, we had our first baby.
So what was it for you, Jacques, that gave you the confirmation to know that
she's the one?
Yeah.
Standing question. You guys are rocking with these questions. So for me, it was just more so. I was essentially. I was in a place where I'm telling myself, you know what, I'm ready now, right? Because I've been through longer process before, and I had to mature. I had to grow. Even though I was of age, I was 32, and I still had some growing to do, and realized it until I was exposed. Per se, because that's what marriage does. Marriage exposes some of your weak points, and if you're open enough to allow things to happen to you, and you're vulnerable enough to allow things to work itself out, you're better off in the end. So for me, I didn't realize that when I was a little bit younger and having gone through the initial process, and I handled things incorrectly. So this time around, I said, you know what? If I'm given another chance, another opportunity, I want to make sure that I operate from a standpoint of maturity, and also be the man that God called me to be. Right? Not just handle things according to my youthful ways. Handle things according to what a man's supposed to do, how a man's supposed to conduct himself, and not only in the house, but also when I'm away from him, or no matter where I go, no matter what I do. So a lot of that I had to evolve over time. And so once I started seeing a little bit more of that myself, then of course my daughter had to be there on that set that gets ready too, because I'm her first love, and that's my first child, and her and I had such a great relationship as she was younger. So I don't necessarily rely on her to help me make a decision, but I also look at that as a very important aspect for me. So, and I said, you know what? I used to have these real conversations with her, even though she was younger. She said, "Daddy, when I'm ready, I'll tell you." Conversation she'll tell me, right? And so one day, I'm driving her back and forth, and she's sitting in her little car seat. And she said, "Daddy, I think I'm ready now. I'm ready for you to find somebody or be with somebody." I was like, "Wait, what? You gotta be kidding me." And it just so happened, like the timing of it, everything, us meeting together, and I remember asking her specifically, and she didn't say this conversation, and I was like, "No, I'm ready for a relationship. I'm ready for someone who's real, someone who believes in God, who's God fearing, and someone that I can definitely grow with." I said, "What's wrong with you? Aren't you with anybody?" She said, "Well, I'm married to Jesus, or I'm engaged to Jesus, or I'm married to Jesus," like something like that." And I was like, "Oh, well, you take it, so I can't, can't do nothing, can't do nothing." Right. And so, yeah. And then once I heard that, I was just like, you know what? That's what I need. Right? That's what I need. Not someone who just, "Well, I think you're a great guy. I think you this, you that." Like, no, I need someone who is God fearing first off, and then we can just the rest we're just gonna figure it out, because at the end of the day, as long as God is at the center of it, we're gonna be just fine. And that's what I need. I need that consistency, and we just kind of evolve from there. And we still evolve and continuously evolve, and we'll continue to do that.
I feel like y'all have a little similar story. Because he always says, he was engaged before. And he always says, like, the next time I'm not gonna mess it up, right? This time I'm gonna do it right. And thank God for the Holy Spirit, right? That works.
Put it together, baby.
In you,
Put it
right? And matures you so that the next time around it could be, something beautiful. So that's awesome.
Sure. Love is beautiful.
It is.
For those who seem to think that it's a tough thing, it's not easy. Nothing in life is really easy. But when you look at people who really just go through the hard, and just get to the other side of it, I mean, it's the most beautiful thing, most satisfying thing in the world. Really, those who think everything is going to be easy, I mean, you're not living in reality, because there's nothing in life that's easy. Sometimes, the most difficult times bring out the most beautiful things. So, it's best to just kind of go through it, don't run from it.
So you had a previous relationship, so you've obviously lived with opposite sex, right? But Aisha, you have never, right? So how was it like coming together and, coming together in the household and like living this thing out for real, right? Like, I know for us, we typically say it was pretty easy to like, I've never lived with, he did, but I had never lived with. Well, it was BC. Right? But I had never lived with a man before, so it was new. It was new for me. But how was the experience for y'all?
Got it.
It wasn't. No, I felt like it wasn't difficult, but maybe things are changing. I'm like, memory is not the best, y'all, but it wasn't. I felt like it wasn't difficult. No, it wasn't. It wasn't super difficult, but.
Okay, so let me help her out real quick. So it wasn't difficult to make the transition to be in the same household. Then it did expose the both of us as far as like how we kept our individual households. Right. So it was just like, now you go through the struggle of, like when I was single, if she come over to visit, the house was a certain way, right? Because it was just me, and unless my daughter come over and stay with me. But for the most part, my house was like in order, and I wanted to be clean no matter what. Then when we get together, it's like, okay, well, the space was already occupied, right? Even though it was just herself, it was already occupied, which means there were things that were already in place, things that were already in certain areas. Now you have to incorporate something new to it. It's like, talk about, she probably had her great grandmother's stuff. Had her great grandmother stuff that's been like, passed down from generation to generation. I'm like, wait a minute, Harriet Tubman had this at one point. So what's going on here? Like, we need to go ahead, unless we're gonna put in an antique shop, we need to do something else with this. So we had to get to moving, Yeah. So for me, I try to downsize as much as I could prior to making that movement. And so I sold like quite a bit. And my brother-in-law came over to the place I was staying in, and I ended up downgrading quite a bit. Like, I got rid of a whole bunch. I gave stuff away. And then all of a sudden, here we are, like, hey, this not enough space for us. And it was just us two. Right? And we live in a 3-bedroom house. So it was like, wait a minute, how can this not be enough space? We don't even have kids right now. We need to get rid of stuff. And we still say that now. Now we're like, okay, RV and all that, because we need to get rid of stuff. And we don't need to hang on to any of this stuff. Like, even like right now, being in our situation, staying in a hotel, we are learning to make do with just a few things that we have. Because the stuff we have in the house, we might as well just get rid of it because we don't need it. And so now we're going through a tough lesson. Then we're enjoying the lessons that we're learning. So initially, it was not easy, and it's still not, because I think, I do certain things where I leave my socks on the floor. And I'll tell on myself on this, and I'll leave my socks on the floor. And sometimes I don't even think of it, because I get home, I don't want no socks on. I'm like, my feet is hot, right? And so I'll put it on the couch, and I won't remember.
Skip over this part, brother.
Oh, skip it. Okay, let me get you.
Drag me into it. Don't.
Oh, sorry, brother. Sorry. I was trying to do the transparency part of it.
No. Keep that
too much transparency. I got it. Yeah. So it's tough. It was tough. Okay, so I skipped that part. It was extremely tough to be able to kind of get through that. But then we still, even to this day, I'm probably like got stuff laying around now. So we're learning to say, okay, I know that's a part of it's part of a habit that you have, but let's continue to talk to each other about it, because we want that to get better, right? Versus like, well, you do this, and I'm acting as if I'm so much better than you, and we're not even like seeing eye to eye on certain things. So it's just getting that initial shock of it to settle down, because I think as the years go by, we get better and better with how we feel about each other, how we see each other, certain things that happen. So initially, not so good. As time goes on, we're getting better. Right? That doesn't mean the habits get better. We're just getting better with being able to deal with each other with it.
I feel like that's real, right? We all live independent lives, right? Before, and we get used to whatever we're doing in our independence, right? And then you invite another person into your life, and so now you have to like switch it up, right? You have to think of the other person when you're doing whatever, right? So we've heard all sorts of stories, right? Like from the toilet paper, how they put the toilet paper on the roll. It's like, whoa, like this is a thing, right? How people fold towels that annoyed the other spouse. Like it's I didn't see
that finger or nothing. It was just something. It was something that was flying around. I saw. Yeah, that's what exactly. Yeah, I saw it. It's gone now, though. I saw when you did that. Yeah.
But I feel like it's real, right? It's a true testament of people coming together, right, and having to adjust, right? And marriage is about compromise and adjusting in all things, right? Not just decision making. So the little things too, that really help propel us forward, right? Like we got to get over this little hump before we even talk about all this other stuff. Like we're gonna have to figure out this toilet paper issue, right? Like something's got to give.
Yeah, people divorce over something like that, like just because they couldn't get along. Something so minute as tissue. Like I just bringing that whole example up, that I've heard other people like at my job or just out and about, just, the toilet paper has to be this way. If it's not this way, we can't do it. Instead of just, just going, and if you like it over and you see it under, just change it the way you use it and then go from there.
I'll say something to the aspect of, and I wouldn't have figured this out until I'm at the stage I'm at right now. Where, I mean, especially for those that are looking for someone to be with, and I don't want to, people pick whoever they want to be with, but sometimes you have to pay attention to what people value, right? Because it's extremely important when you do decide to come together, everything changes, right? And it should change for the better, because now you decide to add kids into the equation. Now you gotta be able to be on one accord. I used to think of, like, this is just a minor situation, but I used to think of, like, even in dating individuals, like, and you do that to you, don't, it's not a slight towards you or anything like that, but when somebody's like, are you carrying a purse? And like, I put it on the ground or on the floor, somebody would go like ballistic. And I remember, like, even in the dating phases of life, where someone would go ballistic over, like, well, my purse can't touch the floor, and like, it shouldn't be, like, I mean, like, this is a Gucci Prada, whatever it is. It's like you mean to tell me, like, this bag has more value than the ground that it sits on? Like, the ground is actually more valuable than this bag or this thing that somebody put together. Then that's just me thinking deeper now. Whereas before I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I didn't know this was so valuable. I would cater to it. Whereas now, the version of me now is like, that tells me as to what you really value, and I'm not down with it. Right. So it's completely different aspect and mindset now. And so sometimes we won't pay attention to this minute things like that, and we make the wrong choices when it comes to the individual we end up with.
Call those red flags. Right? We're so deeply infatuated with this individual, right, that we don't look at all of the red flags that could potentially, cause some detriment to our lives, right? Like, I see it all the time with especially females, right? They get to a certain age or stage in life and they're like, I want to be married, I don't care, just give me a husband, right? And there's these blatant
hurricane force winds on this red flag just blowing, and you're like, you don't see this, you don't see that going off on that guy. I love him.
And it's amazing because people will follow through, with the marriage, right? Like, they will go full force, and then they're like,
and thinking that's going to change,
right?
Get married and think that's going to change that individual.
And it just highlights.
Now the same, highlights it. Marriage magnifies a lot of things, right? So like when y'all first got together, when you start seeing the habits of this individual versus when y'all were just dating, you might have maybe didn't see it that time, but now you're there every day. And like, it's like since you brought it up, Jacques, the socks. All right. Maybe she didn't notice the socks when she visited and stuff. But now that you live together, oh brother, every time I step over here, this boy got some socks. Just right over here. Now what I think, or like to think, and Aisha, you can correct me on this, is with your maturity in that, if you see the socks there, you're like, just pick it up and put it in the laundry basket or something. Or do you be like, hey, your socks, get them.
I'm gonna throw them in the trash.
Can't wait to hear this answer.
Come up. More recently, we had a conversation about the things that I may do, like my hair. When I brush my hair, I leave it leave a lot in the bathroom. He can't stand that, and so we talk about those two things. And so I'm like, well, babe, like, he told me, he's like, every time you see me do something, then tell me, because obviously we don't communicate it and we just keep doing it in silence, then the other person will never know. So like if he doesn't call me out about it and I don't call him out about it, then under the surface we're just getting mad, even more mad. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it's a small thing that could grow to be something bigger and something so simple, right? Like air and salt, like it's tiny, it's minute, but it can be so much bigger if we don't call each other out about it. Like, babe, you left your socks again. And like now it's like honestly kind of a laughing thing. And I think the boys even sometimes would be like, Daddy, your socks are yeah, it's just making sure we communicate about it is the biggest thing. Will I still pick them up? Yes. Do I still love my husband and welcome to do you love my husband? Yes. Like if he doesn't stop leaving his socks on the floor from now to age 120, I will still love the man.
Good, good. I appreciate your maturity in that, Aisha. To see you have grown like this over the years is so amazing. I'm so proud of you and all your accomplishments. Now, you mentioned the boys, okay? You mentioned the boys, so that means there's, like we said earlier, there's children. You have you had a daughter from a previous relationship, but in your current marriage here, and only marriage from here and forever on, yep, I'm gonna speak that for y'all. You got 3 of them. How did that? Well, I won't say how did that come about. We know how. We know how it came about. We won't go into details of that. But the discussion of having children, what was that like for you guys? Did you hit the? No, I can't even say that. That's not the right way to ask that. Was the number of children discussed?
Very good question as well. So for us, there was still to this day is not a number of children. Did we actually no? We said about 2 when we were like, okay, we're okay with having 2, right? I think so. No, I said more. Actually, I said more. I did say more.
Between 2 and 4.
I think I said more.
We have like a rolling number. It was like between 2 and 4. We made just conversation was just, do you want to have kids? It wasn't how many, like you want to have 10, I want to have 2. Like no, like we already knew we were supposed to be together, so it was just you want to have children, more children. Obviously, you already had 1, and so yes, I always said that I wanted to have a whole lot of kids. Then I started having it, and I was like, wait, what?
Oh, it changed right away, don't it? Changed right then and there. Oh, you in this fairy tale world.
I was like 6. I wanted 6 kids.
I don't know where she was gonna get them from. My whole thing for kids was at 2 and impossible. I treat them like spade hands. I said 2, and if that 3rd one, I'm good with the 3rd one. She talked about 4.
Yes.
I was done
you see where we're at.
I was done after Kennedy got here. I was like, that's it. I'm good. I'm happy. I am happy. I'm elated. And then like 6 months after Kennedy, I think I want 1 more. All right, we're gonna let God handle this.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So that's been our conversation recently. I feel like as life and marriage evolve, your conversations evolve and everything continues to progress, right? And so we always like at the beginning, okay, like 1, 2, 3, whatever, cool. For us, obviously we had a baby a year after getting married, and then I became pregnant with Josiah a couple months after Jeremiah was here, and nothing was ever planned. We weren't like not trying, like we just enjoy one another. We're married, we're doing what we're supposed to do and created to do by God. And so
it was breathed on her.
So and then obviously Ava is now here. And so I think the biggest thing for us, and we've had more recent conversations, we continue to grow and a year ago, if you would have asked us this question or we were having this conversation, and be like, we're done. Now that we both are continuing to allow the Holy Spirit to build us and grow us and strengthen us, we realize that we don't have that control, or we shouldn't. Yes, as people, we do have the control, and we can control stuff. And we could say, you know what, we're going to take some major course of action. I'm going to get my tubes tied or whatever. Like, but that's not up to us. And we don't feel that would be living in God's like desire and call for our lives. And so we're not making drastic decisions. Are we okay and completely content with the children that we have? Absolutely. Would we welcome more children if that's what God desires? Absolutely. There is no like, oh no, we're you know, and I won't say the conversation was easy when it did take place and having it. But we kind of the same, like if you guys are obviously aware, like if you have a conversation or like maybe I get a revelation of something and I share with Jacques and he's not fully there yet, kind of like your other show that y'all talk about, if I share something with him but he's not fully there, and then a couple months later, okay, now we're both on board and it gets executed or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it just, you have to come to it in your own timing, in your own season, and we can both, like, you could have this conversation separately with us now, and we both would tell you the same thing. Like, we're not in control. We just trust God, and we are going to do so with our full and total beings in our life and our family, and not just trust him in one thing or the other, but everything.
I feel that.
That is beautiful.
I felt like that's what I told the doctor when she wanted to induce me. Like, no, ma'am, this is not your choice. That baby's gonna come here when she wants to, and we're just gonna allow her to do what she needs to do. And if everybody's healthy and everybody's okay, we good.
She did. She was. It was Kennedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the first one, let that happen how it happens, but then they'll talk to you about the second one. Oh, if you want to be induced, you can. Like, no, she was like, here's the date you can choose.
No, ma'am.
And
God will choose.
He sure did. Now, and I was gonna say, in like fashion, our first one, she came. Water broke on a Friday evening after work. Magnificent timing, just beautiful. Just did what it worked out perfectly. And then she was born that Saturday morning. Kennedy, 3:00 on a Wednesday morning. We sleep. She get up, go to the restroom. Water broke. Oh yeah, okay. We gotta, scramble. As soon as we get there, about 5 hours later, pretty much she
popped out. She was quick.
She was.
After I told them to go to McDonald's, I said, go to McDonald's.
Oh yeah, get some
food before we go to the hospital because they're not gonna feed.
We learned the last time because they're starving in there. She couldn't eat nothing. By the time they was it before the anesthesia or something like that?
Oh yeah, I was late. Might as well not gotten it. It's what it is.
So now that you have your beautiful children there, how's the parenting style for each of you?
Great question. I'll take that one. I'm more of the disciplinarian because I try to live in the moment as much as I can, but I want to think ahead as well, right? Because just like we were talking about at the beginning of this process, we don't know what the future holds, right? So I don't really want to know what the future holds, but I can kind of see where we're headed based on the actions or lack of action that I take, right? And so I try to be more of the disciplinarian with the kids, especially with the boys. Like my daughter doesn't know, she's only a few months old.
Man, start them right there.
Huh?
I said, no, start right there. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's like for the boys, I'm like, yes, they're young, but I'm raising them to be young men earlier on, and then obviously they get older, teach them to be men. While I have this time with them, because something happened to me, I don't want them to have to figure it out, or their mom having to be the one to do what I should have done with them. So right now, yes, they may not really fully understand it, but they know enough, like, because they know the difference between the two of us. If dad says no, I'm going to mom, and mom's gonna say yes, and now like, oh, I got my way, and all they have to do is just, jump on her and be on her, and like, oh, I done suckered mom. Dad, not so much, right? And so I try not to live in the disciplinarian circle too much. Although I do live there quite a bit. And so she would be the one to tell me, like, you need to do more of this, just kind of, they don't need to, you don't have to be so strict with them, and sometimes I do need that. I do need to kind of, okay, yeah, you're right. Maybe I kind of calm down a little bit, but then our dynamics are always going to be different, right? Man and woman.
As they should.
And as they should. But then at the same time, like my upbringing was completely different from hers as well. So now that's the other part we have to incorporate within the marriage, because I'm not saying that my way is the best and only way, but then also I see the opposite of what happened based on how I was brought up. So I try to incorporate the two, or the best of both worlds together, and sometimes, we do clash, not clash in a bad way, but then we clash in the conversation aspect where we're not like, okay, I don't see it this way, honey. Like, that's not correct. And then it's like, wait a minute, like, I'm trying to bring something to your attention to help you see it differently. And you're telling me that's incorrect. You don't want to take in my information, that type of stuff. But for the most part, it's just being open and staying open to it, but then always understanding that we're going to be different in how we raise the kids, right? Because they will play us against each other, and they're already doing that now. It's that as little as they are, they're very savvy, extremely savvy. And so for me, I have to stay with that level head and say, I love you guys. I care about you guys, but when you guys leave here, no one else really cares. Because at the end of the day, like, only we're going to have the type of love that you need for you when you step foot outside of here and people don't know who you are. You're like anybody else, right? So I don't want them to ever have to experience things by not having enough discipline to know how to conduct themselves, no matter where they go, even though they're little now. So yeah.
I think a lot of it too for us is, like you said, having grown up differently. So like, I think Rashawn, I don't know if Tia, but my dad passed when I was 7. And so like just incorporating that in to like our past, how his childhood was, how my childhood was, like we always say too, like we're not gonna be those parents that like put what we lacked or what we wanted to have onto our kids, right? Like, oh, I always wanted to be a ballerina. My daughter's gonna be a ballerina. Like, no, like that's not like we're not trying to live vicariously through our children. We're trying to raise our children to be individuals and be free and able to do what it is they want to do, and they learn and grow. And I think there's a lot of things that like obviously we hands down agree on a good portion of things, and even like wanting to homeschool, like just so many different things. As far as like, I'll say that we're just in everything in marriage and life, we're still growing. So in parenting, we're still growing, we're learning. There's things, and they're like he was telling me recently about being strict with the boys and like helping shape and mold them. And at first I'm like, okay, like you're doing too much. But then I realized, no, like they need that, and as the mom, like, yes, I'm gonna be strict with certain things too, but it's different with dad's around, like kids very much understand mom and dad. They know like when they're sick, they're coming to me. They want that comfort, and you know what I mean? And when they want to go outside and do different things, daddy, can I go outside with you? Like they know the differences between us. They know who to go to. Obviously if you're scared, you're going to dad. If you want comfort or something else, you're going to mom. Like just knowing the differences. But all in all, I feel like we are learning and growing as parents. Obviously, it's only 3.5 years in together when it comes to having our children together. But just continuing to learn and evolve and going with it, because things are always going to be changing. But just knowing who we are as mother and father, mommy, daddy, husband, wife, like just knowing what needs to take place and how it's going to take place, and being open to evolving, because knowing that stuff is always going to keep changing and keep happening, you know.
You know who you are and whose you are.
Yeah. Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar.
One of the things that we were taught when we went through premarital counseling, well, really after marital counseling, because
yeah, it was that's a whole nother story. We tried
to get
work,
so we ended up getting married. We went back because we really wanted to do the premarital thing.
Yeah.
But one of the things that the pastor talked about was understanding that eventually the kids leave the home, right? And you know, who's left but you two. So how do y'all make sure that you keep that connection, right? And it's not all about the kids. Like, what do you do to keep y'all marriage or continue to date in y'all marriage?
I'll go first on this aspect because that's in the area that I think for me, I'm more content with like however life is, I'm content. Like I'm good. Like I don't have to have anything different. But then again, it's like that's me, right? It's no longer just me. So I have to get better at like, you know, the dating aspect of it, right? Because now we have kids, and I'm like, my mind is already like we take care of our kids or put our kids to bed and we take care of them because we're the only ones here. And so our kids don't go anywhere without us. And for me, I'm like, I'm okay with if we go on date night, the kids go with us because that's just us. Right. But then again, you know, sometimes you need that quiet moment where we do have deeper conversations, right? Because now our kids are like especially the 3-year-old, he's like a parrot. He repeats every doggone thing, and then like, oh, so you said what? What's going on, guys?
Yep.
And so for me, I'm like, okay, so yeah, I have to get better with date nights, but then we don't have family members that can, or people that were like, oh, let's just drop off the kids, and we don't want to do that anyways. So we're thinking like, okay, as they get older, that will evolve. I'll get better, but it's never been in the forefront in the thought process of like, let's have date night, like tonight's our date night, or like I'll just quote randomly, but then to me, I'm like, this is part of date night, like I'm cooking randomly. I don't do it all the time, right? But I know I have to be more intentional for me on my side.
I will say for sure it's definitely an area of improvement for us for sure. I feel like, and obviously we didn't have 5 years of dating before we got married and started popping out babies, right? So it's continuing to have that mentality, and I think for both of us, because even for me, and we've had the conversation before, date night doesn't have to be like going out on the town and having dinner or whatever the case. You know what I mean? Like putting the kids to bed and having a game night with y'all on Zoom, or you know, like we have our private quiet time, like whatever that is. Like that's like it doesn't. I know this is giving me ideas, but it doesn't have to be like the typical go out, get drinks, go to dinner. Like that's not what date night is when you're now married and have children, right? Like it's not the same. So it's even like, I don't know if he even noticed this, but like a week ago, all 3 of the kids were screaming, crying in the car. And I was just like, and I just held his hand like 30 seconds of just like, they're gonna cry, like life is gonna life, and things are gonna happen, and when all 3 are crying at the same time, or all 3 are napping at the same time, like whatever the case, like this is the life that we're building. But I think like someone reminded me a week ago, and I immediately texted one family friend that we have here that's known me longer than I've known you, bro. Like I've known her since she was a baby. And so those are people that we trust with our kids with, because I literally held her when she was a baby. And so those are like, they're the one family, if you will, that's here, and not even like right next door. They're like an hour away. But you know, and I kind of just I'm reading a book to help me be a better wife too. And so I realized that it's not just on him to make those environments and incorporate that. And so he doesn't even know what we're gonna do this week when we have a date night, but we do have a date night this week. And they are gonna be watching our kids on Thursday. You know that. like I'm gonna surprise him with where we're gonna go. He's not gonna know where we're gonna go. And it's just keeping that element of surprise, or even like I know for me, I need to be better. Like, okay, the kids are asleep, like we're having our a movie and late night snacks or whatever it is. Like it's small things, but it's game night with us, like whatever needs to happen, whatever works for us is gonna work for us, right? But we are obviously still madly in love with one another and still growing and learning, and we're not like, okay, I'm tired of you, like, but there should continue to be that element of surprise and dating and the honeymoon phase, as they call it.
So,
you used to joke about that.
Speaking of the honeymoon phase, and I maybe this is a hack for next couples that come on or even listen to the show. When you go on a trip or you go far away, just always tell them that it's your honeymoon, right? Especially if you go overseas. Oh, they take care of them. They take real good care of you. I mean, I took advantage of this probably like for the whole entire stay. We were out in Thailand and Indonesia. It was our honeymoon, but it wasn't like every single place we went to. But it was like, hey, this is our honeymoon, and it was like, oh, I can get this, I can get that. I mean, they go all out. And so I haven't really tried it stateside, but do that. Yeah, do that stateside. Tell them, it's your honeymoon. What do they know? They don't know this. This is not, hey, obviously as Christians, right? We're not telling a lie. We're saying like every day we're with each other. It's a honeymoon. Yeah. So it's okay. Celebrate it every day. That's the hack.
I think you said something super important, is that everybody's date night doesn't need to look like what people consider date night, right? Like for some people, it's going out to fancy restaurants. I could care less, right? For some people, it's just, movie night on the couch with snacks. But like whatever works for your relationship, that's what you do. If it's hanging outside on the porch, drinking a cup of coffee, do that, right? That's y'all time together. And who cares what everybody else is doing? I mean, for us, we would go to like
used to do model homes.
Yeah, we would go visit model homes. That was our thing. And we were totally content with that. Did people think it was weird? Sure. But I don't care. Like, that's your marriage. This is ours. We're good, right? We don't need much. We're pretty simple people. So
and something similar to what you said about, like every day is your honeymoon. So for example, for us, we, when we got married, we didn't have like the traditional honeymoon. Like we got married at the courthouse and then we went to Austin, like spent the night up in Austin. But we didn't truly have, like you said, that traditional honeymoon trip until like 3 years later. Like we went to Aruba. And it was so crazy. What was that? Like, was it at Atlanta when we was at the terminal there? And that lady was like, "Oh, what y'all?"
Oh yeah, she was like 2 through with us.
Yeah, we was like, "What y'all celebrating?" Our third year marriage.
And you're going to Aruba?
You're going to Aruba?
Well, then, because you
ain't. Yes. Excuse me.
Well, you have to wait until we're 10 years in. Like, what kind of, like, what is that about? We could definitely relate to, like our family isn't here in Texas. And so we also had to figure out like our village. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard, right? Because you're entrusting somebody with your precious gems, right? And there's so many crazy things that you hear and that happen, right? So it's really hard to relinquish that control, right? But at the end of the day, it's so important to have a village. And whether that's like one family that you absolutely trust, like you need it for sanity purposes, right? Like,
I'll tell you.
You're human, right? So we get tired and, 3 kids and, doing the day in the day out. Like sometimes you just need like, give me 30 minutes. I need to like peace and quiet. Like, give me a second. So, every once in a while, tap into that village.
Oh yeah. We do it.
Even if it's for an hour.
Do it all the time. And the village that we have, they'll reach out to us. Hey, can we get the girls? Absolutely. No hesitation. No hesitation.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful thing. It does take a village to raise any child, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4. It takes a village for sure. We're learning to kind of we're let's say we're evolving from that, because to your point, like when you have kids, it's like they're what do you call it? They're very, very as I say, for lack of a better word, naive, right? Because they don't know any better. And so sometimes, if an individual is not thinking along the right way, they take advantage of that naiveness of kids. Because kids, like I look at my kids, like, and they've never met a stranger. Every time they see somebody, they speak to people more than we speak to people. I mean, it's just like, hey, even if they're not talking to them, they still like, they got to get that person's attention to say hello. And so for me, it's like, I have to be around to make sure, like, I protect that. And so sometimes it's extremely tough to be, everywhere all at once, but while they're young, that's the point to be able to be there and protect that. But not only that, we talked about this even on our show, where we have to protect not only our kids, but also those that are, kids that our kids get to be connected with, right? Because now we got to be the parent or the police for them as well. So we have a strong responsibility as husbands and of course as parents as a whole to look out for all of them.
Oh yeah, we have one of those. We have one of those kids that talks to everybody and she's everybody's friend and she will love on you. And it's like, whoa, okay, right? Like dial it back a little bit, and then we have the opposite, right? Where, if depending on the day, she might not even speak to you. So we've definitely had to have conversations, with her and teach her boundaries and, try to get her to understand, right? Like this is an adult male, right? Like you're a young lady, right? We have to like, it's okay, like to give a high five, right? So, or, not talking to everybody and anybody, right? And so, it is our responsibility. But I feel like I stay in prayer, like about that, right? Like when I'm not there, because I can't be there 24/7, but like giving them the spirit of discernment, right? And really having an understanding and like, if all things fail, please hear my voice in your head, right?
Yes.
So it can be a scary world out there, and I know for me, being a first time mom, like I was like, I don't trust anybody. So she could clearly articulate her feelings and what was happening, that we even allowed them to stay or go anywhere.
So rightfully so.
I think even with that, like, I mean, we always talk about the village. Obviously, having a village, it's necessary, it's needed. When we got married, 2019, and then COVID happened right after that. And I feel like any sort of village we thought we had or may have had was literally stripped from us, like in all facets of life. Literally every corner that we had people was gone. And so we're in that. And no, it was. I'm not saying it was a bad thing at all. It was a good thing. And God only knows why it needed to happen. But now here we are, 2023, 3 babies later, like we're rebuilding. Like you don't have family here, right? So it's building slowly but surely. We have maybe 2 friends that we would potentially leave our kids with, right? So like it's just slowly building it and building it organically, because it can't be forced, and it's not something that like our kids should ever feel like, okay, they're not comfortable being at someone, being with somebody. And like the people that I'm thinking of, and he's probably thinking of too, but we know that our kids are cool with them, right? And they are respectful and loving and, God-fearing, etc. And so it just saying all that to say, like, the rebuilding post-COVID era, if you will, and figuring out what is going to work for us moving forward in the family aspect and village realm, if you will.
How was COVID for y'all? I mean, we were all stuck in the house just, with each other, right? Because you guys didn't have babies at that point. Like, that's a lot, right? Just a 24/7.
Well, you know how COVID was. They ended up having one of them kids.
Yeah, for real. It was real good for us. COVID was good for us. Yeah, so for us, man, and we joked around about this as well, because we didn't necessarily spend every waking moment with each other, because we were both working, and even like after we were both at first, and then so it was like 2 shifts in the night, right? You go to work, you come back, and then you're like, all right, next day we do it again. The weekends we hang out, we do different things, but once COVID happened, it slowed us down enough to where we were like, we start paying attention to everything. I mean, everything, like from our spirits. Oh yeah, the socks too. Yeah. Where papers. Yeah, where papers were being laid around. Like, I mean, why is it such a mess? But then we started realizing, we're like, you know what? Like, we at least can kind of go through that. We go through our ebbs and flows and not stay there. Whereas we've seen and heard other couples who have gone through, I mean, some brutal times with COVID, and not being in each other's spaces for a very long time was a major problem and issue. Whereas for us, we were like, man, this was great, because then that got me a chance to be at home. I worked from home for probably a good 3 years, and was just like, I mean, at first it was like, okay, that doesn't mean I can just hang out with y'all though. I'm like, I need to be in a separate space, but the fact that I didn't have to leave to go anywhere, the work in itself was stressful. But then once I was done, shut down the computer, I was like, okay, I'm home. I ain't got to drive to go nowhere. So COVID wasn't as bad. I mean, we both ended up with COVID. I might have had it like 3 times. She might have had it twice. Yeah, I'm counting the 3 times, like, as in it was COVID before it was a thing. And I got it from work, and I got home, and I was like, oh my God, I was down for like a good week and a half, 2 weeks. And it was bad. She had it when she was pregnant with Jeremiah, our 3-year-old son. That was bad. I mean, I was like, no, it can't be that bad. They thought it was a rare form of the flu.
Remember, we were traveling, my mom's like, Jacques, she can't breathe. But yeah, we're pretty sure it was COVID then. Before, it was literally right like a month or 2 months before they called it COVID.
Yeah. Went to Honduras and all that overseas. While she was pregnant, we went on a mission trip out there. We came back and they shut down the whole entire country. Like, we came back literally like 2 weeks after coming back from Honduras. They're like, okay, we wanted to shut down. I'm like, oh, this is a real thing, huh? And we were in Honduras with no mask, having a good time, no crowd, Yeah. Actually, yeah, we went to Vegas. We went to the Grand Canyon and have a good time there. And we started seeing people wearing masks. We're like, what is that? What's that all about? We got home and like, oh, we shutting this thing down. So what about you guys? What was it like for y'all?
Well, yeah, I feel like we had a good time.
I didn't, I was still employed, but I didn't work that much. I was like working once a week. So literally one day out of the week I was working, but I was at home with the kids, and I'll tell you this much, being home with the kids and they were in school, like preschool type stuff, and trying to carry out the curriculum that I gave up.
Less like 2 days.
It ain't. I applaud those who will homeschool and do that. More power to you on that. There's no judgment on this side. But as for me and my house, you going to school, I didn't have the patience for it. But it did have, we did have the opportunity to be home with each other. And actually, we actually came out on top by doing that. We was able to, save a lot of money. This is when everybody started, doing home renovation. They finally sat down somewhere and like, hey, you know what?
Oh, that looks like
let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do that. We, turned this whole house out because of that opportunity of, the world was kind of paused for those few months. And truthfully, here in Texas and primarily San Antonio, that whole pandemic per se, it still lasted through the years, but we were pretty much as a city back on and popping in like that August. Like it literally, tourism slowly came back quicker. Because I went to Houston that following year to help out with some work there. And I'm used to everything being, oh man, this is great, man. Business is booming here in San Antonio. I get to Houston, oh, it's dead over there. There's nothing going on. So, oh, I don't know what this is about. I said they're still struggling over here. Businesses were still closed, and here in San Antonio, we're like, all right, back to business, back to business as usual here and stuff. So this the whole experience for us being at home with each other, it was really a blessing, because
we didn't really like in our marriage have any issues. Work was super stressful for me.
Oh yeah.
Just because human resources, so like I have to learn all this COVID stuff, right? So,
oh my goodness.
And people are afraid, and it was just a lot going on. So that was very stressful.
And she got it.
And I had just started my job, so it was like 3 months in, all of a sudden it's like, boom, COVID. So I don't even know this organization like that, right? So that was rough. Yeah, and then I got COVID, and I was down for about a week.
And man, when I tell you,
I lost my taste and smell, all the good. Yeah, it was a hot mess.
Kids and I were scot-free over here, living life. She over here in the bed, laid out.
I was speaking that thing down. I was pretending like I could taste all the things in the world. Like, you ain't gonna get me. You're not gonna get me. We not.
COVID is such a disrespectful thing, man. Even to this day, we have some family members in New York that are like off and on, and you hear like my mother-in-law when she came back from Aruba recently and was like, I had COVID. I'm like, what? Like, oh man, like this is just insane. Like this is so disrespectful that this thing is still lingering around.
So speaking of family, would you say you had any challenges as far as family members wanting to be in your marriage, giving you unsolicited advice, or was that a thing for y'all? I know that for some people it could be a struggle.
I'll let you go first on that one.
So actually, I think back to the conversation that you all had with us before we got married, because you all gave one piece of advice that stuck with me and will stick with me, and I will keep sharing with other young married couples or engaged couples, whatever. But you all told us, don't share your marriage with other people. Like, don't tell your best friend all your issues. Don't tell your mom all your issues about your husband or your wife or whatever, and not inviting other people, because when you do that, you're inviting them into your marriage, and now they're gonna, exactly what you'll say, like if he shares with his mom about how terrible I am today and how mad he is at me and blah blah blah, then she's never gonna forgive me, right? Mm-hmm. She's always gonna take his side because that's her baby boy, like, and vice versa. And so we've never opened up to other people because we don't want that. Like, we need to be able to communicate about what's bothering us together, not inviting everyone else into our marriage. So that's been and will continue to be the thing that we live by. And so we don't allow for it. So it hasn't been there. I think some people may try to say certain things, but they don't know what's going on in our marriage for them. They know what we allow them to see, right? And so we don't bring in all the extra and allow for it. So that's my.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree with you on that. We've, at least for me, I've learned from the past, where, you know, when certain things happen, you know, now all of a sudden your family know, they think they know everything, even if it's just a little snippet of what you're letting them know. And so learning from that, you know, actually now my family don't even try to ask, you know, other than how's, you know, everything's going on. You guys good? Yep, we're good. And that's it. You know, so they don't even try. And of course, I don't even, you know, there's no need for me to offer any additional information if there was anything. So I guess operating from that standpoint where, because when you're standing at the altar, is just you two, right? You do have witnesses, you have other individuals that are there. But then once all that's said and done, you're back in your room and now it's like, well, you're husband and wife now, right? And it's just you two. So the idea of inviting other people into the situation further complicate things, right? Whether it's family members or not. So it's just understanding like everything, every decision that you made coming together, right, needs to stay that way and not bring anyone else, because everyone else has their own agendas. They have their own thought process, how you should do certain things, how you should walk out certain things. Like, no, I'm okay. Let me make this decision. 'Cause I made this decision to say I do to this person. So this is where we need to operate. And I need to put that at the forefront no matter what. So that's the key. I think a lot of people struggle with that because people will say, well, my family been here before you, or, you know, that type of stuff. But then again, at the end of the day, everybody go their own way to find who it is that they need to be with. And then they kind of evolve from there. But people will only say that when it's convenient. That's what I find out over the years. And then they go right back to finding whoever it is that they need to be with forever in the day, and they kind of go from there.
So I'll take it a step further too. I think that one other aspect that and for anyone listening, like I feel like if you open your mouth too soon about stuff that's happening in your life, like let's just say we're building a house right now. If we're building a house and we're like, oh, I want to tell everybody about it, like you don't need to do that. Like you don't need to share everything that's happening. Like, yes, it may be so exciting and you're so excited about it and you want to tell the world, but some things need to be kept between you all and your household until it's said and done in like concrete in stone, because that then invites other conversation. It invites the enemy. I'll even say it just invites all this other stuff. And so when you all are working on things like building businesses, building a house, like whatever, having more children, whatever that is, like keeping it between you so that like you all can pray over it and you can walk it out yourselves without all the added conversation that's unnecessary is so key and so crucial. So it could be even great things happening, but sometimes those need to be like kept silent. And I had to learn that even on my own individually before. Without even being before getting married, but I was just something always said like you need to stop telling people what's happening before it happens, you know, because then it just invites all the extra that's not needed. So
yeah, brings in
100% agree. I think that people even unintentionally may speak negativity into your life, right?
Brings about doubt. A lot of doubt.
Yeah, and most of the time they're not doing it on purpose, right? Yeah. But I like to say like that's not my story, right? So, you know, there was a time where we were trying, you know, to have a baby, and people would tell me like all these things that happened to them, right? And I'd be like, you know, I'm sorry to hear that, but that's not my story, right? Like I know what God promised me. So like, sorry, you know, but that's not what's in my heart. That's not what I was told, right? And that's not what I believe. And so quickly I realized, right, like even the happy moments, like you said, like I don't need you saying, well, it may happen this way, or you better watch out for XYZ. Because no, right? Like, you don't know what God told me. You don't know what's happening in detail in our lives, right? So like, I don't need your opinion on the matter. And so that was the biggest thing I took away from our premarital counseling, was like, keep the people out your business. But we also learned the very hard way, right? Like, while we were dating, we allowed friends to constantly give their opinions. And we knew very early on that our relationship was God ordained. Like, no matter what we did or tried to do, like, he was like, no, this is it, right? And because we allowed people to give their opinion in our relationship, we had to go like in circles, right? Like, I'm pretty sure we would have been further ahead, but instead, we allowed them to. And as soon as we agreed with each other, like, enough is enough, everything started to flourish. So when the pastor said that in the premarital counseling, we were like, you ain't telling no lies. Like, we like, this is real.
It was like the children of Israel in the wilderness out there, just going in circles because we wasn't satisfied with what we had. We let other people get into that. So in that manner, using that example, like, hey, the promised land is over here, but since y'all don't want to be, obedient and stuff, I'm just have y'all confused out here, going in circles until y'all get right. Yep. Oh, y'all know that. Oh, let's go into this promised land. So now we've been
shout out to y'all for sharing that with us, because you must have saved us some headache, because I probably would have been the one blabbing and stuff and then learning the hard way. So
and your family, your family mean well,
they
right?
do mean well,
but it's always the single family member that got all the advice, right? Like, if I were you, well, if you were me, you'd be married, but you're not, right? So right. So exactly. How about you keep your opinions to yourself? If you had to give one word of advice to someone who is about to embark on this marriage journey, what would you tell them?
It's never going to be the same as everybody else's, right? Blaze your own trail, follow your own journey. Just understand that it's not going to be easy. There's nothing about marriage that's easy, although for the four of us, we make it a little easy, right? But it's not. There's so much more involved than just what you see on the fairy tale. TV make it look really good, right? Until it's not. And then, so you can't go based on what you see on TV. You can't solely go based on what you see out and about, because although you see a couple holding hands, like, sometimes people are able to put on that type of persona in the public, and then behind closed doors, they're like down each other's throats. So it's just like, it's being able to see every aspect of a relationship, from good, bad, or indifferent, and then also understanding that your relationship doesn't have to be somebody else's. Whatever you make it, that's what it needs to be. And just continue to be open and growing. The more offended you are, then the least productive you're going to be within a relationship. Because after a while, unless the person is like really just want to bring you down, and you can sense that you've experienced that, everything else is just like productive conversation that are taking place to help each other get better. So the less offended you are, then the quicker you move ahead of those who are just starting out. So it's really that.
I would say what we were just talking about, but communication with one another, not everybody else. Keep the communication and conversation between you and your significant other, your spouse, and don't include everybody else in it. So pretty simple.
What you said was a great job. Like, to be able to be content in your own space, right? Like knowing that your relationship is not going to be like somebody else's relationship, and not trying to look at or compare yourself to the TV or to what you see on social media. Really just being content in your own space. And also, I love that you guys say like having the discussion, right? Like so many people are like, we argue all the time. Mm-hmm. And we say like, we never argue, right? We have discussions. We talk about it, right? And maybe we don't agree, right? But it's not an argument. We're having a productive conversation, right? To get to a solution. So it's all in how you see it and view it, and, you know, stop expecting this, you know, Cinderella story.
Yeah. You write your own narrative when it comes to that, taking ownership of your own pen, and just you write your own stories. At the end of the day, your story will be, I mean, it's going to be more beautiful than anybody can ever write, right? Because you're the one that's in control of it. That's the biggest thing. Love and honor and respect each other. That's the other part too. You gotta do that, because regardless of where you are, where you go, like for us, right, as men, maybe you travel for business, maybe you go on certain things or a certain leadership aspect that you're called to be a part of. And no matter where you are, no matter what you do, you always honor each other, regardless if each other's around or not. That's the biggest part too, because I think people kind of, because you spend so much time in each other's space, then when you're not, it's completely different, because I've seen that in some individuals. But you know, love, honor, respect each other regardless of where you are, regardless of what you do, because at the end of the day, whether you have your ring on or not, you still have to love, honor, and respect that person that you decide to be with. That's key.
Man, couldn't have said it better myself. This is why we have the rich people like the Georges is on here. But no, man, this has been a very, very productive show, and insightful at that. I know we had some technical difficulties and stuff early on. You know, Satan was trying to stop this, but look at God. We prevailed and made it. So
yes, we did.
Good nuggets in there.
Yeah, as you would say, good gems in there. You know what I'm saying? Some good gems.
This works for us. This works for you guys. This works for us. This look good on you guys. So anytime you get into where life is lifing a little bit more than it should, come back to this space, because this space is good. It's needed. And it's not even about like the likes, about who's coming through, who's not coming through. Guess what? The message that you're putting out, people are able to kind of revisit them and kind of see as to what's what. And plus, you're leaving a legacy for, you know, your kids to be able to kind of identify and find out, you know, what type of things that mom and dad put together. And here it is, you dropping all these wisdom and knowledge. So this works for you guys. Looks good on y'all. This works for us. Appreciate y'all having us on.
Oh man,
so much
thank you for joining us.
We hope that this segment blesses another couple, and hopefully assist them on their journey.
Appreciate you guys. Love you guys.
All right, love you too. Appreciate it.
Have a
Keep up the good work.
What's up, podcast family? We just want to say thank you for tuning in, watching our episodes. We pray that what we are saying is a blessing to you. God placed it on our hearts to share with other married folks and soon to be married folks. So again, we just pray that it's blessing you.
And stay tuned for the next video. Again, we want to thank you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for supporting This Works For Us podcast.